run into that issue.
What about the Make in India initiative, and as in terms of how much of progress have we made, and with specific reference to defense manufacturing?
Not very much progress. Let's put it this way. A simple anecdote. I once went to the upper Yangtze Valley with a group of small and medium enterprise Indian manufacturers who were from, Moradabad and Haryana and so on. And they were off to meet their Chinese competitors because they wanted to strike deals with them about components and so on. And I just accompanied them for almost 4 days. I traveled with them as they went from Chinese factory to Chinese factory, and then I chatted with them afterwards in the evening as to what they saw. And I remember one of them said, who was an auto components manufacturer from Haryana, he says, I was walking through the Chinese factory, and I said, the plant is the same as mine. The workers are actually worse than mine, and the managers are definitely inferior to what I have back in Haryana. But this guy is killing me. And I realized, among other reasons, he said, I was walking by and I asked a Chinese fellow, where's your generator? Chinese manufacturer looking, why do I need a generator? I get power from the grid. And he says, I get 5 hours of power a day in Haryana, and this guy gets it all the time. Then he said, how much do you pay for it? And he cited a price. He said it was 1/3 the price I pay in India. Then he said, I asked, how much corporate tax do you pay? And he cited a figure. He said, I'm paying about 35% in India. This guy was paying 16% tax. And then he said, I asked him, I said, where do you sell to? And this manufacturer in Upper Yangtze, which is really, small town China, or we'll say small city China. And he said, this guy said, why, man, don't do too big. I sell to about 40 countries around the world. And he says, my eyes popped out. He says, I can't sell from Haryana to UP. And this guy is selling to 40 countries around the world. And he said, how do you do that? And he said, what do? I have an online website. I strike deals across the world. And then I put the products in my container and I mark it, Bangladesh, Germany, whatever, and it goes. And he says, you just let the container go. And he says, and the Chinese guy's like, what is wrong with you? Of course, if the container's marked, it'll go to Germany, it'll go to Germany. And he told me, he says, man, when a truck from my company leaves Haryana and it goes to Delhi, I have to monitor it every half an hour to make sure it doesn't disappear along the way. So the transaction costs in the Indian system are so staggeringly high. I mean, that's just a small portion of what I'm talking about, right? But this was just one small idea of this. This is a man who manufactured auto components, was competitive in terms of what he could do as a person to his Chinese counterpart. But the ecosystem in which that Chinese fellow worked was so much better than his in terms of everything that we have to realize Make in India is going to be the outcome. It's not going to be a policy which the government can just say we're going to make in India. It just has to be an outcome of a whole series of policy initiatives, which, to be fair, the Modi government is doing. GST, I think, is going to be one of the biggest. It will massively reduce our logistics costs, for example. But we have to do a whole mess of other things. We have to reduce corporate tax, in my view. It's simply too high compared to the rest of the world. We have to do something about labor reforms in India. I could go on. There's a long list. It'll be a bit-by-bit transformation. And it's one of the reasons the Japanese are here. The Japanese said, you guys are just horrible at this. We are one of the few, we can take on the Chinese, but you guys just have no idea how to do this, and we'll have to build that infrastructure for you. But the soft stuff, like the taxes and so on, you have to do. Obviously, Japan can't dictate it. So it's very slow. The defense and aerospace and space, if you wish, are the 3 most difficult and most sophisticated technologies in the world. I mean, I once met a company from California, and they make as I asked him, I said, what do you do? He says, we make when you fire a missile on an aircraft, he says, have you ever watched Top Gun? The thing that releases the missile, that's what we make. That's the only thing we make. The thing that holds the missile. He says, because the instant that pilot fires that missile, that thing has to open. Otherwise, he's doomed because his missile will blow up on his own aircraft. So we have orders. Doesn't matter what speed the aircraft is going. If it could be in ice, wind, rain. It can even be smashing into a sea wave, a wave of ocean. It can be frozen with ice. It has to open. So we have nanometer capacities on this that it must open. But Pentagon says, we don't care how much it costs, but it must never, ever fail. That's the kind of technology we're looking at, and we're slowly building that into the automobile area. Digital technologies there are actually quite good. But defense, in my view, is extraordinarily difficult. And frankly, I think the government is a little overreaching itself when it says, let's build a jet engine. Jet engines are built like 5 countries in the world know how to build a jet. Even the Chinese don't know how to build a jet engine yet. They've tried and tried and failed. But if we could just build guns, artillery, basic stuff like that as a start and work our way up, I'd be very happy.